Hey guys, so Dr. Shona Mayer here. I'm a health and performance optimizer physician. Here I want to talk to you about a condition that I'm getting a lot of questions on, and it pertains to histamine intolerance. So basically what that means is there's an increasing number of people kind of flying under the radar screen who cannot tolerate fermented foods. So fermented foods are oftentimes rich in histamine. So histamine is, first of all, a natural molecule that your body makes. It's an important part of our immune system. It's produced by mast cells to help us deal with threats. So it's something that we need to be able to use. It's a good tool. But I think probably you're familiar with people that have these dramatic response to kind of allergies or the immune system going crazy. So for instance, people that are allergic to certain fruits or peanuts or dander or different things can cause an overly aggressive response. And so this happens, similarly, it's related to histamine intolerance in people that cannot tolerate histamine-rich foods. So histamine-rich foods includes things like aged cheeses, blue cheese, and fermented sauerkraut, fermented kimchi, fermented kvass, fermented foods, apple cider vinegar, things, sometimes it's fermented meats that are rich in histamine. So it becomes something that people can't tolerate. Well, oftentimes it's because of a lack of a certain enzyme, diamine oxidase, DAO. So some people have a genetic disorder where they can't produce a lot of DAO, or some people have acquired this condition where they're no longer producing DAO. Sometimes it's medication, sometimes it's foods that can interfere with this. So big ones here are actually processed foods. So things like alcohol, energy drinks, some certain teas, green tea, black tea, and mate tea. So these can interfere with DAO and make your symptoms worse. So if you are somebody that already self-identifies as histamine intolerant, you should be cautious if you have a DAO deficiency with those food steps. So I got this data up here from Medical News Today. I found this interesting article, and I think it's probably worth mentioning for you to be aware. Now, also, there were a few things, some supplements that may help to upregulate DAO deficiency. So some things that you could consider taking that may be of benefit to you to help you tolerate some of these fermented foods, such as you could take as vitamin B6, vitamin C, copper, magnesium, zinc, calcium, vitamin B1, and vitamin B12. But also, it's a little bit controversial because there's some studies that show that vitamin C and vitamin B1 have been shown to inhibit sometimes DAO. So it goes different ways. So how is that possible? Here, let me cut to the chase what I think is going on. Interesting studies, and we'll get into them, is this one here, the microbial patterns in patients with histamine intolerance. Guess what? Disrupted microbiome. Okay. If you're somebody that cannot tolerate fermented foods, I was pretty sure these are people that have a history of a disrupted microbiome. You probably eat a lot of processed foods. You like sweet, sugary things, grains and pastas and muffins and cakes and cookies and things like that, and tortillas and, rice and lots of, kind of processed foods. That will lead, we're finding out, in people with histamine intolerance to a dysbiotic gut. So it's not people with a healthy microbiome that gets histamine intolerance. It's people who have a disrupted microbiome. So you should read this study and see the dysbiotic nature of people that have been studying. And here's another one, microbial patterns in patients with histamine intolerance. So I already covered that one. And intestinal dysbiosis in patients with histamine intolerance. You should pull that one and understand. And you can pull it and read it. And then histamine intolerance, the more we know, the less we know, a review. So it was an interesting subject to get into. That title says it all. It's very complex. So what should you do if you have histamine intolerance? So given the studies emerging that show a dysbiotic, a suboptimal microbiome, I would start with trying to optimize your microbiome. Okay. Rule 1, I don't know how to tell this. I almost like have to turn myself down to keep from shouting this out. If you're eating processed foods, just turn off this video right now. If you think you're going to get out of your histamine intolerance and acquire a healthy microbiome, that you just don't even follow me. I mean, that is just so bad. You just can't do this. You've got to get off of processed foods. It's driving your dysbiotic gut and ruining your microbiome, making you susceptible to cancer and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and so many forms of chronic disease. So you've got to eat healthy. Eat whole foods, just like I've been talking about visceral fat, meat and vegetables. And recently a study I reviewed shows that fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds really don't contribute to microbial diversity and don't diminish inflammation in the way that fermented foods do. So what I advocate eating is meat. Meat is really safe. To fresh meat, if it's not processed and turned into salami or pastrami or something that would have higher levels of histamine, you should be able to tolerate fresh meat. And then a small amount of fermented vegetables, small, okay? So you don't eat these fermented vegetables if you have histamine intolerance to try to get the nutritional value and bulk of, these fermented foods. You're gonna eat teeny tiny, small little bits, okay? Take the tip of your finger, dip it into the juice of kimchi or the juice of probiotic fermented sauerkraut. It has to be living, has to be probiotic, has to be raw, has to be fermented, it has to be live cultured. It can't be pasteurized. So dip the tip of your pinky in there, teeny tiny little bit, okay? And then, you're gonna just put it in your mouth and swallow that little teeny tiny bit. These are microbes, okay? That's all it would take for you to get flu. That's all it would take for you to maybe get some other, infection. It's just, these are little tiny microbes. You wanna induce an infection, okay, of good guys to get in there. Because you have a dysbiotic gut, you wanna start driving, changing, heading in a direction towards returning some normalcy to it. I think too often people that have histamine intolerance are trying to force too large of a response. So let me try to explain this to you in conventional terms. If you had a peanut allergy, one of the effective possible treatments that conventional medicine employs to try to treat your life-threatening peanut allergy is to expose you to very, very teeny tiny amounts, these antigenic exposure, micro dilutions of peanut antigen, teeny tiny bit. Like, I can't even quantify, it's so small, it's a world I don't understand, okay? And you give that shot to that person, and it's so small, they don't get an allergic reaction, okay? That's the key to this, is you can't have an allergic reaction from the shot. And you keep gradually increasing that teeny little bit until they get larger and larger amounts, and pretty soon they could take a spoonful of peanut butter, larger amount. But that's only after the allergenist immunologist has cleared them and treated them effectively. Same thing with bee stings, same kind of process. So That's what I'm talking about. Little teeny tiny bits, not a spoonful, okay, not a half a jar. You know, you're just gonna dip the tip of your finger in there and drink it with non-chlorinated water, because if you use chlorinated water, it's gonna kill off those good microbes. And you wanna start getting those microbes in there and start restoring your health. And the key to this is variety, okay? If you read these articles, there's a lot of species that are very deficient, and a lot of species that are pathogenic, way too many of them. And you're not gonna move the needle much with a teeny tiny little bit on one jar, okay? So I recommend getting like 10 jars, you know? They're about $10 a piece. Yep, it's gonna be a $100 investment. Those 10 jars should last you 3 to 6 months in your refrigerator. Dip your fingers in each little bit and gradually, you know, expose yourself to those different microbes, and try that strategy out and see how it works for you to help overcome your histamine intolerance, okay? I think that might work. There's also kefir and yogurt and even sour cream that has these microbes in it, apple cider vinegar, and I'd recommend diluting apple cider vinegar, you know, and adding it, you know, to water, and then dip your finger in it. So you get teeny tiny small amounts of this over a period of time of your gut. And let's just say you do that over 3 to 6 months. You should be able to get yourself colonized with a lot of different variety of beneficial microbes to help restore the level of diversity of healthy microbes in your gut. So hopefully this is a beneficial talk on histamine intolerance, and you could probably look for a physician experienced with treating histamine intolerance through microbial diversity, which is the way to go. And if you're highly motivated, I might even be willing to work with you. I look for extremely motivated people to study them, but I'm very skeptical though, because if you got histamine intolerance, I'm thinking you had a lot of undisciplined nature, and I'd be wondering how in the world you got this discipline. Could happen. Happened to me. I was so undisciplined. I ate batches and batches of fudge. Good Lord. But look at me today. I'd like to study somebody like me that turned around. So maybe you're that person. If you want to learn more about working with me, you go to my website, www.drseanomara.com. Just a little bit about working with me. I am like a very, very high-end professional NBA head coach. So if you walk into that basketball court and you want to learn to play basketball well, you're going to have a pro coach yelling at you, you know, expecting high things from you, okay? So anyway, I like to explain that up front so that people aren't disillusioned. You may want to start with somebody else, you know, near you, keto doc near me or something like that, if you're not ready for that. But if you're extremely motivated, you want to biological optimize, I consider potentially working with you. All right, we'll see you on another interesting topic. I'm going to post this, and as always, if you like this, give it a like. If you have any questions, throw some questions in there. If you have any comments, throw comments in there. And remember, other people here try to optimize, so keep your comments positive and respectful to other people who want to get better and really become the best biological version of themselves. And if you know anybody who's suffering from histamine intolerance or for really chronic disease in general, share this video with them. And as always, I look forward to doing these videos and for people following me and being involved in my channel. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.